Would you welcome Dean Martin?
How'd all these people get in your room?
Dean Martin appeared so wasted on The Tonight Show. In 1975, he made a national embarrassment of not only himself, but iconic host Johnny Carson. His behavior was so erratic and disruptive, his future invites were forced to be regulated. This is what happened that night. Martin came to promote an NBC special, a simple 10-minute spot. Johnny turned to the camera and introduced Dean Martin. The band played. The audience applauded. Martin stumbled out from behind the curtain, hardly able to walk. He waved to the crowd with exaggerated sweeps of his arm, nearly losing his balance. He made his way to the guest chair like he was walking through mud, each step deliberate and uncertain. And before Carson could even start his friendly introduction, Dean drunkenly called him by the wrong name.
How you been, Joey?
Hello? You're gonna start already, huh?
No, I'm not starting.
How are you?
I'm almost through.
Carson's expression tightened. This was already off the rails and they were only 10 seconds in. Martin finally sat down, legs crossed awkwardly with one foot tapping. Johnny sat too, forcing a smile that did not reach his eyes. He asked Martin how he had been. Martin leaned back in the chair like he was sinking into a couch at home, grinned wide, and his answer came out slurred, vowels stretching like rubber, words running together into mush. He told Carson he was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. The audience laughed, thinking this was the character, the tipsy comedian they had seen 1,000 times before. But Johnny knew better. He had seen intoxicated guests before. He knew the difference between performance and reality. This was reality.
Good to see you.
How'd all these people get in your room? I'll let you know one thing, that there's going to be at least 110 people watching you tonight, because I'm going to Frank's house. You know, it's his party.
It's his 60th birthday.
And we're all going to get in his bed and watch you.
Well, that ought to be a cozy little group.
He pressed on, asking about the NBC special. Martin stared at him, then at the audience, then back at Johnny like he was trying to remember where he was. His response was vague and meaningless. He said it would be special, real special. When Johnny asked who was on it, Martin waved his hand vaguely and said, "Everybody, all the big names. You know how it is." He did not name a single guest. He could not remember who was on his own special. Johnny's smile faded. His fingers drummed the desk once, then twice, a motion his producers recognized as frustration.
You can come back in a minute. I'd like to talk about your special.
I have a special?
It's coming up Sunday. This Sunday.
Oh, is it? They actually put that thing together? I didn't know that. You said it the best. Everybody says, I didn't know that, or I didn't know that. But you said it the best. I didn't know that.
I practice a lot.
Carson tried another angle. He asked about Vegas and if he gambled the last time he visited. Martin perked up slightly, started talking about the MGM hotel, about the beautiful women, the cold drinks, and hot dice. But the story had no beginning or middle or end, just fragments of thoughts colliding. He started a sentence about a blackjack table and never finished it.
See you
I
around.
go to the Magum.
The what?
The Magum in Las Vegas.
Oh, the MGM Hotel, the Mega.
I go there 6 times a year. Pick up $400 or $500 and get out.
Do you gamble when you're up there?
Me gamble? Me? I was a croupier for 11 years, and you asked me if I would go up against them tables. Do you know that those tables are not there to be beaten? Do you know that the percentage will get you? Why don't you stop me when I'm yelling like that?
Johnny's jaw clenched even harder. He was losing control of the segment. This was his show, his desk, his timing that he had perfected over 13 years of hosting, and Martin was destroying it. In real time, Carson jumped in, trying to steer the conversation somewhere manageable, anywhere that made sense. Martin talked right over him, not hearing or not caring. The audience's laughter grew nervous. People were starting to realize this was not part of the act.
Yeah. You know, at home, this desk looks bigger.
It is bigger at home.
Then Martin's attention drifted to the camera crew positioned around the set. He squinted at them, pointing vaguely. Why were they staring at him like that? What were they looking at? Johnny leaned forward, trying to redirect. He explained calmly that more crew members were coming out to set up for Bob Hope, who would be appearing later in the show. Standard procedure, nothing unusual. Martin's face went blank. He processed this for a long moment, mouth slightly open. Then he smiled and said something about Angie Dickinson. "When's Angie coming on?" He loved Angie. The audience laughed nervously. Carson's eyebrows shot up. He had never mentioned Angie Dickinson, not once. He had said Bob Hope. Martin nodded enthusiastically, talking about how beautiful Angie was, how they'd worked together before. Johnny's patience cracked visibly.
Well, we have a bigger group coming tonight because you and Bob are here, you see. Normally, nobody stands over there at all.
Oh, I thought they were here because Angie was here.
Yeah. Angie who? Dickinson? No, she's not on tonight.
You just saw her.
No, that was on. That was on.
When the elephant...
No, she's not.
We are.
I have a hangnail. I'm sterilizing it.
His voice went flat and tight. He repeated that Bob Hope was coming on later, not Angie. Martin stared at him confused, clearly not understanding the distinction or why Johnny seemed upset. The audience's laughter died out. His expression stiffened. He was done trying to make sense of this. Martin had completely lost the thread of reality. Not even 10 seconds later, Martin pulled a bit that made Carson extremely uncomfortable. Martin was so wasted, his coordination was completely gone. He reached for his drink. Somehow he still had one, and spilled a little on his finger. Instead of wiping it off like a normal person, like anyone would do, Martin stuck his liquor-soaked fingers directly into Johnny's face.
Anyway.
Don't throw it away. Don't ever throw that away.
That's finger licking good, isn't it? Yeah. Look.
Hey, Doc, how's your Severson?
Carson recoiled instantly, pulling back, laughing it off but in obvious discomfort. The audience gasped audibly. Martin laughed too loud, too long, too forced. He thought it was hilarious. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, trying to smirk as best he could. His smile was gone now. The rest of the segment proceeded awkwardly between the two of them. Johnny pivoted to another question, anything to move past the disaster unfolding on live television. But before he could finish asking it, Martin cut him off completely. He held up his hand, stopping him mid-sentence. He said he was tired of answering questions. Why was he always the one answering? His turn now. He wanted to ask Carson some questions. The audience chuckled, thinking this might be a playful bit. Johnny forced a smile, going with it. "Sure, Dean? Go ahead," he said. Martin asked something that made Carson visibly uncomfortable. Something about women in the audience. About whether he ever noticed how they looked at him. The way Martin said it was loaded and inappropriate. He tried to laugh it off, but his voice was tight. He said he tried not to notice those things. Martin grinned and said something else. Something quieter that the microphone barely picked up. Whatever it was made Johnny's face go stone cold. The audience had stopped laughing entirely now. This was not fun anymore. This was uncomfortable television. Johnny knew it was all supposed to be in good fun, but it was not suitable for families watching at home. He shifted in his chair, trying to redirect the moment, searching for a joke or a segue that could pull the interview back on track. But Martin kept leaning in, smiling that slow, foggy smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Johnny recognized the look immediately. The look of someone who didn't understand or didn't care that the room had changed. The studio lights felt hotter. The silence between laughs grew longer. Johnny could feel the crew watching from behind the cameras, waiting to see how he'd handle it, trusting him to regain control the way he always did. He attempted a quick question about Martin's tour, hoping to reset the rhythm. Martin ignored it and circled back to another comment about Johnny's appeal to women, almost teasing him for pretending not to notice Carson kept his smile on his face. But it wasn't a real one. It was the one he used when he was buying time, the one that said he was 2 seconds away from cutting to commercial if he had to. The band, sensing tension, stayed still. No stingers, no soft music to cushion the awkwardness. Carson crossed his legs, a small, subtle signal he used when he wanted distance without showing it. He nodded politely, keeping his eyes steady, but inside he was already planning the exit. He knew this segment could not go on much longer. Not like this. Not with innuendo creeping in from a man the audience adored. A man who didn't realize he wasn't charming tonight. He was unraveling. And Johnny, always the protector of the show, understood he now had to protect it from someone he once trusted. Martin asked another question about Johnny's wife. When had Johnny last seen her? Was she here tonight? Johnny's face flushed. He said Ed's wife was lovely, but Martin was not asking about Ed. He was asking about Johnny's wife. What did she think of all this? The question hung in the air awkwardly. He didn't answer. He just stared at Martin, jaw working. The studio was dead silent. Johnny signaled desperately for commercial break, cutting the segment short. The floor manager counted down. During the break, Johnny did not lean over to talk to Martin. He sat rigid in his chair, staring straight ahead, breathing hard. De Cordova's voice crackled through his earpiece. "Do we end it now? Just wrap it and send him home?" Johnny's voice was ice. "Yes, end it, now." When they came back from the commercial break, Johnny stood immediately. He thanked Dean Martin for coming on the show. The audience gave scattered, confused applause. Martin seemed surprised it was over, started to say something else, but Johnny was already extending his hand for goodbye. Martin stood, wobbling badly, and Johnny wrapped his arm around his shoulder firmly. He physically walked him toward the curtain as the band played him off. The moment they were backstage, out of camera view, away from the audience and lights, Johnny's expression changed completely. The professional mask dropped. His face went cold, hard, and furious. He handed Martin to a production assistant without saying a single word, without making eye contact, and walked straight to the control booth without looking back. He was done, completely done. The bond was over. In the control booth, De Cordova was already on the phone with NBC's Standards and Practices Department in New York. They had been watching the feed live, monitoring every slurred word, every stumble, every awkward pause. The question, do they air it? Do they actually broadcast this disaster to 12 million viewers across America? Martin had not said anything overtly offensive. He had not cursed. He had not made inappropriate comments about anyone, but he was clearly, undeniably drunk on live national television, and that was an image problem for NBC. Not a legal problem, but a serious reputation problem. De Cordova told him he would review the full tape frame by frame and make a final decision by morning. He hung up and turned to Johnny, who had just walked into the booth. Tie loosened, face exhausted, De Cordova asked him what he wanted to do. Carson shook his head slowly, ran his hand through his hair, said he needed to think about it. They sat in the dark control booth and watched the playback on 3 different monitors simultaneously. Every stumble, every slurred word, every awkward pause, every moment Martin's eyes went unfocused. It looked even worse on tape than it had felt live. Somehow worse, more embarrassing, more final. Back in his dressing room, Martin sat alone on the couch, tie on the floor, jacket over the armrest. Someone had brought coffee. He sipped it, hands shaking, staring at old photos on the wall. One showed Martin from 1968, laughing with Johnny and Bob Hope 7 years ago. A production assistant knocked, asked if he needed anything. Martin waved her away. She closed the door. Martin sat in silence, then put his head in his hands. The mask dropped. He looked exhausted, old, finished. He knew what had happened even through the Scotch fog. He knew he had destroyed something irreplaceable. Johnny finished taping the rest of the show. The audience left, whispering about what they had witnessed. Crew members packed up in silence. By 8 o'clock, the studio was empty. Johnny walked back to Martin's dressing room and knocked. No answer. He opened the door. Martin was asleep on the couch, snoring. Johnny stood there watching him. He thought about all the times Martin had been on the show. The laughs, the songs, the chemistry. This was not that this was the end. He closed the door and walked to his car without saying goodbye to anyone. The next morning, De Cordova called Johnny at 8:15. They had reviewed the tape with NBC executives through the night. The decision? Air it. Martin had not crossed any hard technical lines. Cutting the segment would raise more questions than it answered. Variety would run stories. People would speculate wildly, so they would air it. But De Cordova added one caveat: no more Dean Martin bookings, permanent ban. Johnny agreed instantly. He told De Cordova he could not do that again. It was not fair to Martin or the show. De Cordova understood the plan: air the episode, make no public comment, and remove Martin from all future booking lists. No press release, no explanation, just silence. But the call didn't end quickly. De Cordova lingered, choosing his words carefully. He told Johnny that the control room had watched the playback frame by frame, arguing about how much of Martin's condition came across on camera. Some thought it was subtle, others thought it was painfully obvious. Johnny didn't want to hear any of it. The night before was still sitting in his chest like a weight. He interrupted and said flatly that the discussion didn't matter. What mattered was that he felt humiliated on his own stage. Not angry, humiliated. A show built on precision and timing had been thrown off balance in a way he couldn't correct. That was the line. De Cordova hesitated again and finally admitted something else. A few staffers were upset, not because Martin had struggled, but because they had watched Johnny tense up in real time. They had never seen him lose that microsecond instinct he always relied on. Johnny didn't respond. He just listened. The idea that his own team had witnessed him falter made his jaw tighten. He thanked De Cordova for the call and hung up. He sat in silence in his kitchen for a long time afterward. He replayed the night in his mind. Not the jokes, not the awkward pauses, but the moment he looked into Martin's eyes and realized his old friend wasn't fully there. It wasn't anger he felt. It was grief. They had built decades of goodwill, and it had evaporated in 7 minutes he couldn't take back. By noon, NBC's publicity department had already drafted talking points in case the press called. Carson ignored them and told his assistant to direct all inquiries to NBC and to say he was unavailable for comment until further notice. Off camera, he treated the incident the same way he treated every personal crisis in his life. He locked it away. When friends asked if he was all right, he brushed it off. When Ed McMahon tried to bring it up gently that afternoon, Johnny shut it down with a single shake of his head. The banishment was final, the silence was absolute, and the friendship, once effortless, dissolved into a moment neither man could ever undo. The episode aired in late 1975. 12 million viewers watched Dean stumble live. Some laughed, while others cringed. Critics called it sad and painful to watch. Johnny stayed silent publicly, but told his staff Dean was gone for good. Dean Martin never appeared on The Tonight Show again during Carson's tenure, not once in the remaining 17 years. He did other talk shows, Merv Griffin twice, Mike Douglas for a week, but the relationship with Johnny had soured beyond repair, not because of anger or betrayal, just quiet, permanent disappointment. Years later, after Carson retired in 1992 and Martin passed in 1995, interviewers asked Johnny about that night. He gave short answers about Martin having a rough time. He said, "It's simply just business." If you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to subscribe for more. Click the videos on screen to see more. Hope to see you next time.